I've gone back and forth about whether I should even talk about this. But at this point, keeping it to myself feels worse than putting it out there. This happened when I was a junior in college. I won't say which school, but it was somewhere in the Midwest. Big campus, lots of brick buildings. The kind of place that feels alive during the day and completely hollow at night. I was working part-time as a night assistant in one of the older academic buildings. It wasn't security exactly. My job was to sit at a desk near the main entrance, make sure no one unauthorized came in, and lock the place down at 2 a.m. Most nights were painfully boring. I'd do homework, scroll my phone, and listen to the building settle. If you've ever been alone in an old place late at night, you know the sounds I'm talking about. Pipes clicking, vents sighing, random footsteps that are definitely not footsteps. At least that's what you tell yourself. There was one room on the 3rd floor that always made me uneasy. Room 306. It was listed as storage on the floor map, but the door had no window, no signage, and no visible lock. Just a handle and a solid slab of wood. I never saw anyone go in or out of it. One night around 1:15 a.m. I heard knocking. Not loud, not frantic, just 3 slow taps. I froze at the desk listening. The building was supposed to be empty. I checked the camera feed. All hallways were clear. Then the knocking came again. Same rhythm, same calm pace. I followed the sound upstairs, every step feeling heavier than the last. When I reached the 3rd floor, the hallway lights flickered slightly, and that's when I realized the sound was coming from room 306. I stood there for a long time, staring at the door. Finally, I asked, "Hello?" No answer. Just knocking. I didn't open the door. I went back downstairs, logged the incident, and told myself it was pipes or someone messing around earlier. The next night, the knocking started earlier, and this time a voice followed it. My voice. Soft, close, saying my name from the other side of the door. I quit the job 2 days later. The building manager asked why. I told him the truth. He looked at me for a long time and then said, "You're the 3rd one this year. Room 306 doesn't exist on any official floor plan anymore." My name is Aaron and I am 24, and I live in a small town in upstate New York, where the streets go quiet after 10 p.m. and everyone knows everyone else's business, even if they pretend not to. I drive for a rideshare company, mostly night shifts. Better tips, fewer drunk crowds, and honestly, I've always preferred being awake when everyone else is asleep. There's something peaceful about empty roads and dark storefronts. About a month ago, I was driving on a Tuesday night, just past 2:40 a.m., when I got a request that immediately felt off. No address. Just a pin dropped on a stretch of road outside town. It wasn't near any houses, no bars, no gas stations, just trees and a narrow road that most people avoid at night because it cuts through a small forested area. Normally, I would have ignored it, but the fare was unusually high, like triple what it should have been for a short ride. Curiosity got the better of me. When I pulled up, my headlights washed over an old bus stop, the kind with a cracked bench and faded route numbers that probably hadn't been used in years. There was no one standing there. I waited for about 30 seconds, finger hovering over the cancel button. Then the back door opened. I jumped. I hadn't seen anyone approach the car. A man slid into the back seat without saying a word. He smelled faintly like cold air and something metallic. He looked mid-30s, maybe older. Pale skin, dark circles under his eyes. He was wearing a jacket that was way too thin for the weather. It was late fall, almost winter. I asked him where he was headed. He leaned forward slightly and said an address. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. It was my childhood home. I hadn't lived there since I was 13. My parents sold it after my dad passed away, and the place had been sitting empty ever since. I hadn't told anyone in town about that address, let alone someone I'd never met. I laughed awkwardly and said, "That place isn't really a place anymore." He didn't respond. As I pulled onto the road, I glanced at him in the rearview mirror. He wasn't looking out the window. He was looking straight at me. Not aggressively, just studying me. The radio crackled to life on its own. At first I thought it was interference, but then I heard voices. Not music, not static. A woman's voice. my mom's voice, arguing with someone, then a younger voice, mine, complaining about homework, asking for cereal. My chest tightened. I turned the radio off completely. Silence returned, but it felt heavier than before. The rest of the drive felt longer than it should have. Every time we passed a reflective road sign, I could see his face in the mirror, still staring, never blinking, never moving. When we reached the address, my stomach dropped. The house was still there. Same shape, same sagging porch. But the windows were dark and the yard was overgrown. No lights, no car in the driveway. I parked at the curb and said, "This is as far as I can take you." For the first time, he smiled. He leaned forward and whispered, "You left too early." Before I could ask what that meant, he opened the door and stepped out. Instead of walking toward the house, he walked past it, straight into the trees behind the property. I watched until the darkness swallowed him. The app buzzed. Ride completed. 5-star rating. Tip included. I sat there for a full minute before driving away. I deleted the app as soon as I got home. Didn't even cash out my earnings. I just wanted distance between me and whatever that was. A week passed. Then another. I started convincing myself it had been stress. Sleep deprivation. My brain filling in gaps. Then last Friday I checked my email. There was a notification from the rideshare company. You have a new pickup request waiting. The timestamp was 2:47 a.m. The location wasn't a pin this time. It was my current address. I don't drive nights anymore, but sometimes around 2:40 in the morning, I swear I hear a car idling outside my apartment. And every time I look out the window, there's nothing there. I moved into my apartment because I wanted to be alone. After a bad breakup, after too many roommates, after too much noise, it was supposed to be a reset. The building was old but clean. Second floor, parking lot view, nothing special. About 3 weeks after moving in, I started noticing someone standing outside late at night. Not every night, just enough to feel intentional. Sometimes he stood near the dumpsters, sometimes near the stairs. Always wearing the same gray hoodie. I told myself it was coincidence. I work from home. I notice things more because I'm always here. But then he showed up places he shouldn't have been. At the grocery store across town. At a gas station I never went to before. Once sitting in a car outside my gym. He never approached me. Never spoke. Just existed in the same space as I did. One night around 11 p.m., I heard someone knock on my apartment door. I checked the peephole. No one was there. When I opened my phone, I had a notification from my building's security app. Access granted. I hadn't let anyone in. The knocking came again. Louder this time. I didn't open the door. I sat on the couch, lights off, heart racing, listening as whoever was outside slowly leaned closer. I heard breathing on the other side. Soft, familiar. When I finally worked up the courage to look through the peephole again, I saw myself standing there. Same clothes, same face, smiling. I moved out the next morning. 2 weeks later, my replacement posted in the building group chat asking if anyone else had noticed a guy in a gray hoodie hanging around at night. If you're listening to this late at night alone and something outside your space feels off, trust that feeling, because sometimes what's watching you isn't trying to get in, it's waiting for you to notice. My name is Daniel. I'm 26, and until recently, I worked overnight at a distribution warehouse outside Columbus, Ohio, the kind of place that never really sleeps, but also never feels fully awake. I took the night shift because it paid better and because there were fewer people. Just me, a couple of forklift operators, and a security guard who stayed near the front gate. Most of my job involved checking inventory and walking long aisles of stacked boxes under buzzing lights. About 2 months ago, something strange started happening during my breaks. I'd sit in my car in the parking lot around 2 a.m., engine off, just scrolling my phone and enjoying the quiet. That's when I started noticing another car parked across from me. Same spot every time. Dark sedan. Windows tinted so deep I couldn't see inside. At first I assumed it belonged to someone else on shift. But the car never moved. Never turned on, never left. Night after night, it was just there. One night, curiosity got the better of me. I stayed late in my car after my shift ended. Everyone else left. The lot was empty except for my car and that sedan. I waited. After about 10 minutes, the sedan's headlights flickered on. They didn't fully turn on. Just a quick flash. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. The message read, "You can go home now." My heart dropped. I hadn't told anyone I was still there. I didn't respond. I drove home shaking, checking my mirrors the whole way. The next night, the car was closer. Not much, maybe 10 feet, but enough that I noticed. This time I didn't sit in my car. I went back inside the warehouse and asked security if anyone drove a dark sedan. He frowned and said, "That thing's been there longer than you have." I asked what he meant. He told me the car shows up on cameras but never arrives. One frame, it's not there. The next frame, it is. No entry footage. No exit footage. That night around 2:17 a.m., the warehouse lights shut off. Not all of them. Just the aisle I was in. I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around and saw myself standing at the end of the aisle. Same uniform, same posture. He smiled and said, "Break's over." I quit the next day. Last week I drove past the warehouse during the day. The parking lot was full, and that sedan was parked right where I used to sit, engine running, waiting. I don't take breaks anymore, because wherever I stop for too long, something else clocks in for me.